You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur.
Come on, y'all!
Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, brought to you today by Party Slate, the first website designed specifically for event professionals and venues. Check them out at partyslate.com. So if you missed last week's episodes, on Monday of last week was a roundtable with Carrie Goldberg, Rishi Patel, Christina Matucci, and Augusta Cole to talk about what we've each learned during COVID and what we think events will be like post-COVID. Then on Wednesday, I had a wonderful return conversation with royal photographer Matt Porteous to talk about how the experience of the pandemic helped us to seek out what's really meaningful. And just last Monday of this week, I had on two guests to talk about the ins and outs of Clubhouse, Jen Vasquez and Morgan Childs. So if you've just heard about Clubhouse, or you're just starting to get into it, or you don't know anything about it, be sure to listen to last Monday's episode. It's a great introduction to the app. And today I'm continuing the conversation about Clubhouse by talking about how to find your voice and how to be a great room moderator on the app. To help me with these topics, I am talking to one of my favorite Clubhouse moderators and speakers, DanaBowling, who founded the popular Clubhouse club Amp It Up. Dana is a business and motivational coach helping women gain confidence, take action, and show up and stand out on Instagram and Clubhouse. She is also a mother to two young, energetic boys and says she truly understands what it's like to build a business and show up consistently while balancing everything in her life. So enjoy my conversation with DanaBowling. Dana, you are a kick-ass moderator. I mean, seriously, you're one of my favorites on Clubhouse, and you're just so natural hosting and moderating. You've obviously found your voice, and I just wonder if it was comfortable for you from the start.
On Clubhouse, nothing was comfortable from the start, I have to say. I mean, I think it's a new medium for every single one of us. Most of us just joined in January or beyond, or at least maybe December. And it's very, very uncomfortable at the very beginning to do an audio-only app. We're so used to seeing people. We're so used to faces and verbal and visual cues at the same time. And this is totally not that option, right? Everyone mutes when you're not talking. And so it's very uncomfortable to be able to connect when you don't really have that feedback. However, I'm an easy and fast and quick learner, I should say. I learned fast. And that was I think, my standout skill there.
Well, if I could say this, because it's in your Clubhouse profile, so it's known to the public, you say in your profile, quote, anxiety, panic attacks, and fear of judgment turned me into a shell of a person until I stopped caring what other people thought about me, became aligned with my purpose and passion to help entrepreneurs show up in their business, unquote. So it sounds like, I mean, you went, like, for example, I don't know if I can resonate with every part of it, but here I am with my podcast. I've been doing hundreds of interviews. I have 2 podcasts. I'm totally comfortable. But when I get onto Clubhouse, I'm just still somewhat new. I do have a sort of anxiety and a little fear of judgment, which I don't have at all otherwise. It's really weird. And you went through that too, obviously, from your statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just, we tell ourselves a story that everyone's better than us and that everyone has more experience than us. And ultimately, at the end of the day, who's to say whose story is more filled or who has more experience? Yes, sometimes you get people up on Clubhouse that have had 300 years of entrepreneurship experience, or massive public speakers have, filled stadiums. But more often than not, they're just normal people. Some of them are very accomplished, but there's no reason that they should be better on Clubhouse than any of us. It's just that they have done the thing that is scary, which is, raise their hand, host a room, and speak. That's the only difference.
So for you, though, like you did also say you had trouble in the beginning. Like, how did you go about, being able to, I mean, again, that quote, that phrase, find your own voice and be so comfortable? Because again, Don, I mean, one of the, when I say you're such a kick-ass moderator, I mean, not only are you really good technically, with bringing people up and down and keeping the flow going and being able to, multitask to bring people up on stage and to really, I love the way you introduce people. You have a shitload of fun while you're doing this, but it wasn't like that at first, was it? Like, how did you make that transition? Do you have any tips?
Honestly, I think I just screwed up a bunch and then I just kept going. So I host 5 or so rooms a week. And now it's been 3 months of that. I mean, I wasn't doing 5 at the beginning. Probably the first month, it wasn't that crazy. But I mean, I would say I'm doing about, I'm hosting myself about 25 to 30 rooms, I would say a month. So like, how can you, not get better?
So you're saying it's just practice. It's just doing it over and over.
No, I mean, look, some people have a better sense of being able to host anything, right? So I am an amazing host of a party, not because of the food I put out or the drinks I put out, but because I am not okay unless I know that everyone feels comfortable, unless I know that everyone is, has met each other, conversations have started, drinks are in hand. Like those things are very important to me. I get very uncomfortable if I feel like someone is like sitting awkwardly in a corner. In fact, it actually probably makes me not want to host parties that often because it stresses me out to make sure everyone else is having a good time. That being said, I think that it really translates to the Clubhouse scene too, because on Clubhouse, I am so concerned with everyone's experience. I feel the energy in the room when it goes up. I feel it when it dips, and I adjust accordingly. I also go into many, many rooms throughout the day. I'm in Clubhouse rooms all day long, even if I am not hosting or speaking or even a mod. I'll go into rooms like when I'm, just working. So I'll like use it as a podcast, or maybe I'll go in as I'm walking my dogs or whatever. The reason is because I learn what I do like and what I don't like from other people. So Billy Samoa Salibi and Brendan Kamarasamy, they're 2 men that host rooms almost nightly on Clubhouse, and they've been doing it for about 3 months. And I'm so lucky to be one of their regular mod squatters. And so I started to come into their rooms and learn from them. I learned how they're introducing people. I learned the back channel and what needs to happen back there, because it's very important to have some sort of orchestration and communication between the moderators so it's not chaos. I learned their tips to kind of keep it flowing. I change it up. I do my own spin on it, of course, but I think that's how I started to really understand my style.
You know what's really interesting? This makes me think while I'm listening to you talk, and I don't remember whose room. I would like to give credit. I don't remember who said this, but there was someone had said this in I think it was about finding your voice. There was actually a room about finding your voice. And then for people listening, there's rooms on how to be a great moderator, which we're going to get to in a minute. But in terms of finding your voice, someone said being on Clubhouse is a journey. It's an uncomfortable awakening process. And it's that really resonated with me, because it's almost like, not that we're finding ourselves, people talk about you create, you don't discover yourself, you're creating yourself. But it is like this, a whole nother process for me of awakening. I just thought, and again, whoever it was, she said it was an uncomfortable awakening process, but it's a journey being on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, you resonate with that too?
Yeah. I mean, I'm learning so much about myself, Andy. Like, I actually do believe that I know myself 100 times better than I did in December of 2020. Like, it's crazy. There's some really cool skill of being able to speak about yourself with awareness, knowing that people are listening live over and over and over.
Yeah, right.
On our podcast, we talk, but we don't know who's listening live. People can listen on fast forward, or people can just turn it off. We would never know. On Instagram, same thing. People can just watch my stories kind of like half paying attention, or just fast forward through them. Like, there's no real way to know what people's reactions are. But when you're live on a Clubhouse space, you can see the room numbers drop if you are talking about something that people aren't interested in. If you are holding space, that is, and I think that is the most important thing, is getting really good at talking in front of a crowd about yourself or about whatever point you want to make, because there's a right way to do it and then there's a wrong way to do it. And I believe that if you do it the wrong way, it's absolutely detrimental to your growth on Clubhouse and in business.
When I was growing up, I was really into listening to speakers, like great people who lecture and talk and speak. And I was, even as a teenager in college, I would go to these lecture series because I loved hearing people express themselves. I've always had an interest in what words people choose and phrases and the tonality and the emotion and how, you'll build and, there's peaks and valleys. And I find that it's really, on Clubhouse, it's really like that too. I mean, and the speakers that I really liked the most and I could get most engaged with were the ones who were vulnerable, who would share something really personal, even though in Clubhouse, it's a room full of people. Maybe we know a handful of them, but we don't necessarily know a lot of the others. And yet just being comfortable to be as if you're in a group of friends,
Yeah.
I find that seems to be like one of the real ways of engaging people.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's really, I try to make it like a dinner table conversation, no matter how big the room is. I just really want people to feel good and comfortable. And I get a lot of times people coming into my rooms saying, I feel safe here.
Mm.
And I think that, I don't know if I set the tone or I pick moderators that also set that tone, but it's a very different experience when you're in one of my rooms, I think, versus other people's rooms. There's a few moderators that I would argue are exactly the same as me in that sense, like just really setting a safe zone for people to come in and be themselves.
Yeah. I think that is part of, because that's the other thing I want to get into is, in terms of how to just literally moderate. And I agree. I mean, it's the host. I mean, for people who are just getting to know Clubhouse or don't know yet, I mean, there's one person who kind of hosts it, and then there can be, or not, multiple co-moderators, but it's the main host. I agree. It seems to me that the best ones set the tone
100%.
right up front, right? And also almost even kind of lay down the rules in a sense of how it's going to go, like, hey, whatever, I'm going to talk for a little while, and then, we'll allow you to raise your hands and come on stage and ask questions and make comments. And then, you'll start making some other comment with a moderator, then go back and invite someone from the audience. I mean, it's interesting.
I agree. It's a dance. It's such a dance. And so many hosts are getting this wrong. I think so many hosts are focused on getting the big room.
Right.
And getting the numbers.
Right.
And so what they do is they just want the biggest and the biggest and the biggest of mods to get in there, right? So they're just bringing people up. It doesn't matter if they have any idea what the topic's about. Because I know that because I go into rooms where I get invited to the stage immediately when I walk in, and it's
right. Well, they see you're following.
yeah, and it's about LinkedIn, and I'm like,
right.
I just hired a LinkedIn person. Like, I don't know a thing about LinkedIn. It's one thing if you want me to be in there to talk about the fact that I don't know LinkedIn, but don't moderate me in a room talking about how LinkedIn best practices. That happens all the time. So people are just trying to bring, because the second that you have someone that has a lot of followers on your stage, their followers get notified and it becomes a more, the algorithm works in your room's favor. Now, that being said, I do believe that you can have a very big room and still have a very, very well-run room. And it is a dance, and it does start from the top, because for me, I want my moderators to know that I appreciate them and I love them and I'm glad that they're there. They don't have to stay. My audience comes first. And if my audience is not getting their answer, and there is times where I have to finish a 4-hour room and there's still 10 hands raised because I just need to put boundaries on myself and limits.
Yeah.
But I will, like yesterday, I had a room. Mario Armstrong was in there. He has like 45,000 followers on Clubhouse, which is a pretty decent number.
Yeah.
And he sat there and waited until I got to him. I introduced him and I said, I'll get back to you for a question. He sat there for an hour and he waited until he spoke for the first time. And not only that, he sent a DM at the end to the group DM, the back channel, saying that was literally one of the best Clubhouse rooms I was in. So we find that I think a lot of moderators or a lot of hosts get so starstruck by people coming in the room with a lot of followers. Like the Grant Cardone thing, where he comes in a room and the whole room stops and everyone just talks to him the entire time.
Right.
And I understand the need for that sometimes, but it's also like, what is the purpose of your room? Are you there to impact your audience, or are you there to make connections with like big celebrities on Clubhouse, And if it's the latter, I believe people will start to kind of see right through you.
If you are an event planner, venue, caterer, photographer, or any other industry professional, you really should be aware of and using the Party Slate marketing platform. And I want to say, I only work with sponsors whose product or service I'm either fully aware of or even use myself. So you can create a free profile that can act as a photo-rich portfolio, or Party Slate has additional membership options available. And if you're planning or involved with an event, from weddings to fundraisers to baby showers and really everything in between, You should use Party Slate to get inspired. Save your favorite ideas and contact top professionals to help create your dream event. New photos from real events are uploaded to Party Slate daily, and their editorial team publishes articles that highlight the latest trends and planning tips. It is a really great site. You've got to visit partyslate.com to get started. And again, that's partyslate.com. And then there's also the tip to go into small rooms, right? Especially in the beginning, just to start getting comfortable and just get on stage. I mean, just ask a question, comment. It seems, and I know that in the beginning, I'm still kind of a beginner. It's been like 3 weeks for me, but I feel like it's more intimidating getting into the large rooms, and with a lot of moderators and a lot of people with big followings. And so I'm learning that, I'm doing a lot of practice in just small rooms, right? Don't you think that that's one way to get into it?
Absolutely. I think that, at the very beginning, it's nerve-wracking. And I think it's easier to talk in front of 18 people than it is to talk in front of 1,800 people or even 180 people, and whatever is going to work for you. And the goal for me, I think what really made the difference is I found a couple people first week on the app that I kind of latched onto, and they may not have realized it or not, but I followed them and I really followed them, meaning they went in a room and I went in there because they felt safe. And I hear this all the time. I hear people say, Dana, I'm stalking you on Clubhouse. I'm like, stalk away. Like, that's actually what you're supposed to be doing. And the reason why is because if you are not feeling comfortable in a room because it's all strangers and you don't really know the vibe and you don't know what to do, you're not going to want to raise your hand. But if you come into my room and you've now seen me in 15 rooms and you know my vibe and you know that I've never once treated an audience member with disrespect, you're going to raise your hand a lot easier because it feels like we're friends.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make. Like even me, like people, think they know me from being on the podcast. Well, I think I know you, from listening to you on Clubhouse. But that speaks to exactly what you're talking about that comfort zone, that I feel. And I also think I think you were the one that talked at some point about how not only to be vulnerable on there, because then people can really, relate, resonate, engage, but to tell stories to make points. Wasn't that you? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I think to tell stories in the sense of, making sure that your story is is resonating with people. Is that what you mean by that question? What exactly are you?
Well, to illustrate a point, almost to create imagery for people to really better understand and to tell a personal story rather than just say, hey, this is what I recommend, da, 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 da. But here's what I went through, and this is the pain that I felt, and this is what I did. It seems like that's a good way to also really engage people.
Let me put it this way. At the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs that are on Clubhouse. Most of us. I don't think a lot of stay-at-home moms are on Clubhouse, at least that I know of. Most of the people that I'm in rooms with have businesses. How do we get clients? How do people buy our products or our services? Why do people listen to our podcast or watch our YouTube channels? It's because of us. It's not because of what we're saying. And honestly, this is what I mean. Every single thing I teach, Andy, in my courses, in my Instagram courses, in my Clubhouse courses, in my, confidence on camera stuff, like every single thing I talk about, you can find somewhere else. I didn't come up with all of it. Like I am a messenger for all the information that I've learned over the years. And I kind of filter what I like to talk about and what I don't. And I say it in my own way, but nothing I'm saying is groundbreaking. Because you can Google and YouTube every single thing I teach. However, it's me that's saying it. So it has its Dana spin. And I think that if you're not showing up vulnerably and letting people in to your story on Clubhouse or on Instagram or in any social media or podcast in any way, what's going to happen is that people will feel apart from you. They will not know how to go in because you're not letting them in. And guess what? They're also not going to let you into their lives. And so you're going to have this kind of surface relationship. So as an entrepreneur in 2021, the only way to grow and the only way to really connect with your audience is to be vulnerable and share personal stories. So if someone says, Dana, I am struggling to come up with content for my business, to come up with content for Instagram, I could say, okay, here's an idea. Fill out your content pillars on this chart and batch create your content on Sunday. Okay, that's fine. Or I can say, I get it. I'm with you. So here's what I do. Every single day I listen to podcasts, and I love podcasts or Clubhouse rooms or whatever. But see, the thing is that a lot of times my best ideas come when I'm listening to one of those mediums, and my brain says, oh, that would be a great post to talk about that. So what I do then is I go into my notes app and I start filling it all out. And then when I wake up at 5 a.m, when my brain is at its most efficient, is early in the morning and my kids are still sleeping, that's when I open up that notes app and I pick a picture and I just go for it. Because that to me makes more sense than sitting on a Sunday away from my family and batch creating. Because so now all of a sudden it's like you're in my life and you understand how to go about it rather than just go do it. It's like, oh, this is how to do it. That was just such a surface example, but I really do believe that it's easier for me to say, hey, you're going to get better at doing Clubhouse rooms. You just have to keep going and practice. Or I can say the first time I ever spoke on a Clubhouse room, I sweat through 7 layers of clothes.
See, and that right there, I immediately engage with when you say that. That grabbed me.
And not only that, you're not only engaging with me, Andy, you're there with me. You feel it. You see it. Your heart starts to beat for me. You know what I mean? Like you feel that feeling of the sweaty palms, the shaking hands, the beating heart, the shaky voice and doing it. And then with the second it's done, you feel exhausted, drained, but also on another level of exhilaration because you come over to your Instagram and you see 25 new followers.
Right.
Does that make sense? So now all of a sudden I painted the picture.
No, totally. And everything you're talking about while when I hear you doing all of this, you're also, and this is something that also distinguishes you from some other really good moderators, you're clearly having a good time. Like I really hear it because, you're having fun, right? There's
no question.
It's clear.
There's
it's obvious.
Absolutely no question. When I moderate those rooms, especially those like Friday or Sunday rooms, those big party rooms, I am burning calories. I'm walking back and forth. I'm laughing. I am doing jumping jacks in between. I am hysterical on the back channel with the best moderators ever that send the funniest stuff. We are enjoying my life. When I'm done, yes, I'm tired, but I'm also flying high like I could go fly a plane. Like I'm so energized by it.
Yeah, it's exhilarating, isn't it? I know.
Yeah, and you know what? There's a lot of people with who that's draining for them. And I suggest if you are drained every single time you are doing something, you have to wonder why, and you have to look at that. Because in order to feel like you're doing something that you really enjoy, it should be energizing.
At this point, I've hosted just a handful of rooms. Every single time, you don't know this about me, but I also have a music and entertainment company doing live bands, for events. And until 3 years ago, I performed and I did it forever. At the end of every performance, the ones that really went well, I was ramped. I was jacked up in a good way. And I'm finding that with these rooms, even though, especially because I'm newer at hosting rooms, although there's anxiety with it, by the end of it, I'm so excited. Like I can't sit still. I'm ready to go again. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's how it's supposed to be. People that are performers, people that are public speakers, they don't go on stage like begrudgingly.
Right.
They can't wait.
They love it. I know. It's like food. We need it. And
I will say this, every single time I open up a new room, I get nervous.
Real? Do you still? Really?
Hell yeah. Because you know why? Because in that moment, you have a second where you're like, what if it's not going to do nearly as well as it did last week? What if no one shows up?
Yeah.
You have that moment. And it was so crazy on Friday. So I have really, really, my rooms are pretty popular on Fridays and Sundays. My Friday room, I opened it. It was empty. And I'm not joking when I tell you.
Oh, really?
Empty for like a full minute. Not one person came in. No moderators came in and no audience. And I really, honestly, there was a part of me that was like, I should close the room. Like something's wrong. One person came in and she just sat there. And I was like, hi, we're just going to wait until people come in. It was the craziest experience. I had never had that happen to me. Yeah. Well, the room ended up hitting 200 people.
Oh, come on. Really? After a slow start? Like, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a huge room. It was just a really strange beginning of a room. And I started to panic. I was like, no one's coming to my room today.
That's funny.
We all have better days and worse days. And also at the same time, who cares if it's not a popular room. Like, who cares actually at the end of the day? Does that make us less good at what we do? No, it's just could be a timing thing. It could be a holiday, or there may be other events currently on the platform that are more popular. You never know.
Yeah, you just don't know. Well, let's talk about your club before we wrap up, because
Okay.
you've got a club called Amp It Up,
I
which
do.
I love it. I love the name.
Aw.
Do I really even have to ask? I can tell it's you. I mean, Amp It Up.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so funny. About 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was sitting and trying to think about what it wasn't my podcast yet. I was trying to think about kind of like what my brand would be.
Yeah.
And I was just playing around with some words. I really wanted to come up with a word that felt like me, but also maybe stood for something. And I really was struggling. And then I was putting together a bunch of different words that described my personality, like energetic, happy, fun, bright, ambitious, motivated, positive. And so then all of a sudden I looked at all the letters and I was trying to think, and then I saw ambitious, motivated, positive, AMP. And then
Wow.
And so all of a sudden I was like, that works, because AMP, like I do amp people up. I am an amped up person. So I truthfully believe that it worked out like kind of amazing. I would say it worked out really, really well. So I was excited about it. I love Amp It Up. I have Amp It Up is my podcast. I have
Okay.
Amp Up Your IG, which is my 12-week Instagram course, a group coaching course. I have Amp Up Your Clubhouse now, which is a 4-week boot camp.
This is a brilliant brand. Keep going, but this is a brilliant. Okay, I'm just impressed, but keep going.
Thank you. Amp Up Your Clubhouse. I have my digital course called Amp Up Your Reels, which is all about how to create reels and kind of like the technical aspects of that. And then my club on Clubhouse is Amp It Up as well. So I have all Amp It Up. I don't know how many more amps I can put in there, but
well, and what kind of topics, so people listening know, what are like in terms of the repetitive ones that you do, which I'll still come back to over and over again because every time it's different, but what kind of topics do you get into?
I talk about Instagram growth. I talk about, I have like a Monday morning motivational room, which is really just like getting your week started. So we talk about like doing scary things, or how to, really be happy this week, or what brings you joy, like stuff like that. I have a storytelling room, meaning how to tell your story within 60 seconds. We have like a timer and everything. I have a secrets to growing on Clubhouse and Instagram room.
Yes, I love that one. That's how I met you, or how I found out about you, was that one.
Yeah, that's my Sunday room. Yesterday, I did a spin on it and it was really popular. So instead of Secrets to Growing on Clubhouse and Instagram, I called it Secrets to Growing on Clubhouse. How to Do It Scared, I think is what I called it. And it was so, so good. Oh, no, it wasn't Do It Scared. That was my morning room today. It was How Not to Play Small.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And people really liked it. And then I also have, Clubhouse moderation hosting tips. So like it's called Read the Room, how to host an amazing room on Clubhouse.
Right. Great. God, that's fantastic. Well, you don't know this, Don, but I do an intro and an outro. And so I will let people know how to find it, and people can go to the show notes and get all this information. But I really appreciate you taking this time. One last thing. How are you balancing your life? I mean, you're a parent, you're an entrepreneur. I'm sure you have friends you want to see. Then you're on Clubhouse all the time. Like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed and spread thin since I got into Clubhouse. How are you doing it? I don't get it,
I know. I get you completely. Well, I'm a podcast listener and I'm an audiobook listener. So my AirPods were in my ears from morning till night anyway.
Right.
I just listen to Clubhouse now more. I am definitely sleeping less. There's no question. I am up later and I'm up earlier. I don't know if
me too.
My brain is working on overdrive because my business has grown tremendously.
Yeah.
So it's like Clubhouse is just one of the things. There's so many other things that are happening. And then, Clubhouse is basically the domino effect is what I'm saying. Like people like you, like podcast episodes, so many. I'm being asked to speak on summits. I'm being asked to be interviewed in magazines. Like it's crazy right now.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. But because of that, everything is kind of like really, really overwhelming right now. So I'm sleeping less. I'm also not on Clubhouse nearly as much as I was probably in January and February. I've definitely slowed it down because I host so many rooms. So on the days that I'm hosting rooms, you can't multitask.
Right.
When you're the lead host, you really have to pay attention. And so I may actually kind of slowly lower my hosting days, but right now I will definitely keep it going. But that means that when I'm not hosting a room, I really have to get the work done. So I spend a lot of time working, in my business, but not working on my business. And now I am at a position like I'm redoing everything because of so much new stuff. So I'm redoing my website. I'm redoing all my copy. I am adding new programs. I'm creating new content. I have podcast. Like there's so much to do in the back that I have to spend more time doing that. So I'll just go on Clubhouse sometimes and listen. I won't go up on stage if they call me up.
Right. Well, look, I really appreciate this, Dana. Thank you for coming on. I know that, this is the kind of real stuff that people need to hear, is how to kind of break themselves into this whole thing. And so, thank you. I just appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm so appreciative of you having me. And this was such a fun conversation. We went right down to the ins and outs of Clubhouse, and I love seeing you there on Clubhouse too.
Yeah, and I will see you in your rooms. You'll see me.
Yeah, I can't wait, Andy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you for listening to my conversation with DanaBowling. You can find Dana on Instagram at thisisDanaBowling, and Dana is spelled D-A-N-A. Again, on Instagram at thisisDanaBowling, and on Clubhouse at DanaBowling. And her club is Amp It Up. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please think of 3 good friends and colleagues who you think would really enjoy getting into Clubhouse and can learn from this, and please share it with them. I want to finally thank Party Slate, our sponsor for today. You can find them at partyslate.com, and we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.